Captain Junho stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching through the viewport as Apex Prime grew larger. The massive space station hung in the darkness like a small moon, its surface covered in lights from 1,000 different docking ports. Ships of every shape and size surrounded it, each one carrying delegates from across the galaxy. His hands gripped the railing tighter than he meant to. Beside him, Tactical Officer Minji noticed and gave him a small nod. She understood his worry. They all did. "Sir, we're receiving docking clearance," said the communications officer. "Bay 73. "Take us in," Junho replied. The ship moved smoothly toward the station. Through the windows, Junho could see other vessels arriving. One ship was enormous, at least 5 times the size of the human vessel. Its hull was dark green and covered in strange markings. Another ship looked like it was made of living coral, with water somehow held inside transparent sections of its structure. Engineer Taiho came up beside Junho and whistled softly. "Those are some impressive ships. I wonder what they're bringing." Junho didn't answer. He knew what they were bringing. Everyone knew. The message from the Galactic Coalition had been clear. Bring your most fearsome war beast. The galaxy was in danger, and traditional weapons had failed. They needed something different, something primal, something that could fight the Ravagers on their own terms. The Ravagers were consuming everything. Whole planets had gone silent in the past year. They were like locusts made of metal and fury, eating through civilizations faster than anyone could stop them. Regular armies couldn't keep up. The creatures adapted too quickly, learned too fast, and reproduced faster than they could be killed. So the coalition had made a desperate decision. Each species would bring their ultimate predator, their most dangerous creature, their perfect killing machine. Together, these war beasts would form a strike force that could match the Ravagers' savagery. And humanity was bringing dogs. Junho had nearly laughed when Admiral Daeyun gave him the assignment. Then he realized the Admiral was serious. Completely serious. "We don't have giant monsters," Daeyun had said. "We never brought back dinosaurs. We never built super predators in laboratories. What we have are dogs. They've fought beside us in every war we've ever had. They'll fight beside us now." The horizon's edge settled into its docking bay with a gentle thump. Junho took a deep breath and turned to his crew. "Remember, we don't tell anyone what we brought until the presentation ceremony. If anyone asks, we say our war beast is in transit on a separate vessel." Minji nodded. Taiho gave a thumbs up. Xenobiologist Hana adjusted her datapad and tried to look confident. "What if they find out early?" Hana asked quietly. "Then we deal with it," Junho said. "But let's give ourselves every advantage we can." They made their way to the cargo bay where the rest of the team waited. Sergeant Hingu stood at attention, his hand resting on the head of a brown and tan dog sitting calmly beside him. The dog's name was Max, a Belgian Malinois who had served in military operations for 4 years. Beside them stood Medical Officer Yuna with Cooper, a golden-colored retriever whose gentle eyes seemed too kind for a war zone. There were 10 other handlers with their dogs, each one carefully selected for different skills. "Everyone ready?" Junho asked. Hai and Wu saluted. "Yes, sir." The dogs are calm and ready for deployment. Junho looked at the 12 dogs. Some sat quietly. Others wagged their tails. One small corgi named Bori was lying on his back while his handler Sumin rubbed his belly. They looked nothing like war beasts. They looked like pets. Like family. "Let's go meet the other delegations," Junho said. They left the handlers and dogs in the cargo bay and made their way into Apex Prime. The station was massive inside, with corridors wide enough to drive vehicles through. Aliens of every description walked past them. Some were tall and covered in scales. Others floated in containment suits filled with gas. A few looked almost human, except for extra arms or unusual colored skin. The main gathering hall was already filling with delegates. At the center stood Supreme Commander Vexith, a reptilian alien nearly 3 meters tall with dark red scales and eyes that seemed to see everything. His voice boomed across the hall. "Welcome, representatives of the Coalition. We face the greatest threat our galaxy has known. The Ravagers cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be frightened. They can only be fought with equal ferocity. That is why each of you has brought your species' ultimate predator." A screen activated behind Vexith, showing images of planets reduced to barren rocks. Cities crushed to dust. Populations vanished without a trace. Tomorrow, you will present your war beasts. We will evaluate their capabilities and form them into a unified strike force. Together, we will take back what the Ravagers have stolen. The crowd erupted in various sounds that Junho assumed were cheering. Clicks, roars, whistles, and other noises filled the hall. A massive alien approached their group. It looked like a walking boulder with 6 legs and armor plates covering its body. This was a Korthian, Junho recognized from the briefing files. "Human delegation," the Korthian rumbled. "I am Ambassador Grenth. Tell me, what manner of beast does your species bring? I am curious to see what predators evolved on your world." Junho smiled politely. "Our war beast is still in transit. It will arrive before the presentation." "Ah, security concerns. Understandable. We Korthians bring the Renclaw, a creature from our homeworld's deepest caverns. It can crush steel in its jaws and survive falls from orbit. It has never been defeated in combat." "Impressive," Minji said diplomatically. The Korthian leaned closer. "Between us, I have heard rumors. Some species claim the humans have no true predators on their world. They say you are a species of prey who simply learn to use tools." Junho kept his expression neutral. "I suppose we'll see tomorrow." After the Korthian left, Taiho muttered under his breath, "This is going to be a disaster." "Maybe," Junho admitted. "Or maybe everyone's been thinking about war beasts wrong." That evening, Junho visited the cargo bay. Most of the handlers were asleep in temporary quarters nearby, but Yamu sat awake with Max. The dog's head rested on Hyunwoo's lap. "Can't sleep either?" Junho asked. "No, sir. I keep thinking about tomorrow. About what happens when they see Max." Junho sat down beside them. Max looked up at him with alert brown eyes, then licked his hand. The simple gesture of affection made Junho smile despite his worry. "I've been working with dogs for 10 years, Hyunwoo said. I've seen them do incredible things. Save lives. Find people buried in rubble. Detect bombs that would have killed dozens. But I've also seen the looks on people's faces when they first meet a military working dog. They expect something scary. Max is amazing at his job, but he's not scary. He's a good boy," Junho finished. "I know." Hyunwoo scratched behind Max's ears. The dog's tail thumped against the floor. "The Admiral believes in this plan," Junho continued. "And I trust the Admiral. Dogs have been our partners for longer than we've had written language. They've never let us down. I don't think they'll start now. I hope you're right, sir." Junho stood to leave, then paused. "Hyunwoo, why do you think dogs work with us? They're predators in their own right. They could survive without humans. But they choose to stay with us. To protect us. To fight beside us. Why?" Hyunwoo thought for a moment, still petting Max. "Because we chose them too. It's not just training or food. It's partnership. It's family. That's what I'm counting on," Junho said. He returned to his quarters, but sleep didn't come easy. In his mind, he kept seeing tomorrow's presentation. He imagined massive creatures with teeth and claws and armor. He imagined the laughter when humanity brought out 12 dogs. But he also remembered something his grandmother had told him when he was young. She had owned a small terrier that had once fought off a thief trying to break into their home. The dog barely weighed 10 kilograms, but it had protected her without hesitation. The size of the fighter doesn't matter, she had said. What matters is the size of the heart. Junho hoped the coalition would understand that. He hoped they would see what humanity had learned over 40,000 years of partnership. That the best warriors weren't always the biggest or strongest or most fearsome. Sometimes, the best warriors were the ones who fought not because they were programmed to, but because they loved you. Tomorrow would reveal whether that lesson could translate across species and stars. Tomorrow would show the galaxy what humanity meant by partnership. Tomorrow, 12 dogs would change everything. The presentation ceremony began at dawn, station time. The arena could hold 10,000 spectators, and every seat was filled. Representatives from 12 species gathered to watch as each delegation revealed their war beast. Ju and Ho sat with his team in the human section, his stomach tight with nervousness. Down in the cargo bay, the handlers waited with their dogs. The plan was simple. Wait until humanity's turn, then bring the dogs out together. No hiding, no apologies. Just the truth. Supreme Commander Vexith stood at the center of the arena floor, his red scales gleaming under the lights. Today, we witness the galaxy's most fearsome predators. These creatures will be our answer to the Ravagers. Let the presentations begin. The Corthians went first. The arena floor opened, and a massive platform rose from below. On it stood a creature that made several spectators gasp. The Renclaw was 4 meters tall at the shoulder and covered in thick armor plates that looked like black stone. It had 6 legs, each ending in claws as long as swords. Its mouth was filled with teeth designed to crush and tear. The creature roared, and the sound shook the arena walls. "This is our champion," Ambassador Grenth announced proudly. "Bred for 1,000 generations to be the perfect killer. It fears nothing and feels no pain." The crowd erupted in approval. Clicks, roars, and other sounds of admiration filled the space. Next came the Velshiri, the aquatic species. Their war beast was transported in a massive tank of water. Inside swam something that looked like a cross between a whale and a serpent, at least 20 meters long. Its skin was covered in sharp ridges, and its mouth could swallow a vehicle whole. "The deep terror," the Velshiri ambassador said through her translator, "from the darkest trenches of our homeworld. It has hunted and killed creatures twice its size." More cheers. The displays continued. The Thraxians brought creatures made of living crystal that could phase through solid matter. The Nemarians presented swamp beasts whose roar could shatter reinforced glass. Each species tried to outdo the last, showing off teeth, claws, venom, and raw power. Teho leaned over to Junho. "We're doomed." "Have faith," Junho whispered back, though he wasn't sure he believed his own words. Finally, Vexith called out, "The human delegation will now present their war beast." Junho stood and walked down to the arena floor. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. He could feel thousands of eyes watching him. He reached the center and turned to face the crowd. "Humanity's war beast is unconventional," he began. "It did not evolve on a death world. We did not engineer it in a laboratory. We did not force it into service through training or technology." He pressed a button on his communicator. The arena doors opened, and the handlers entered with their dogs. 12 humans walked out, each with a dog beside them. Sergeant Himu led the way with Max trotting happily at his side. Medical Officer Yuna followed with Cooper, whose golden tail wagged gently. Handler Suman walked with Lil Bori, the corgi who barely reached her knees. The other handlers came with their partners: German shepherds, border collies, Labradors, and mixed breeds. The arena fell completely silent for 3 long seconds. Then the laughter started. It began with a few clicking sounds from the chitters, the insectoid species. Then the Corthians joined in with their rumbling mirth. Soon, half the arena was making sounds that clearly meant amusement, mockery, and disbelief. Ambassador Grenth stood up, his boulder-like body shaking with laughter. "This is a joke, yes? These tiny creatures? They are pets, not warriors. A single Renclaw could kill all of them in seconds." Junho felt heat rise in his face, but he kept his voice calm. "These are dogs. For over 40,000 years, they have been humanity's partner in survival, hunting, and war. They chose to be with us, and we chose to be with them." More laughter. A delegate from the floating gas species called out, "Perhaps humans are confused about what a war beast is meant to be." Minji stepped forward, her datapad ready. "If I may present some information?" "No need," Vexith interrupted. His massive form moved closer, and he leaned down to look at Max. The dog sat calmly, unbothered by the giant reptilian face studying him. "Tell me, human captain, what can this small creature do that would be useful against the Ravagers?" Hyunwoo stepped forward before Junho could answer. "Max can detect explosives from over 100 meters away. He can track a target across any terrain for days without stopping. He can identify friend from foe in complete darkness using scent alone. And most importantly, he will never abandon me, no matter how dangerous the situation becomes." Vexith tilted his head. "Interesting. But can it fight?" "He has taken down armed combatants 3 times his size," Hyunwoo said. "But that's not his primary function. He's a force multiplier. It makes me better at my job. Together, we're more effective than either of us alone." The Corthian ambassador laughed again. "Sentiment. Emotional attachment. These are weaknesses, not strengths. A war beast should be a weapon, not a friend." Hannah, the xenobiologist, activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the arena floor, showing data charts and video footage. "This is footage from human military operations over the past century," she explained. "Dogs have served in every environment. Deserts, jungles, urban combat zones, and even space stations. They've saved thousands of lives through search and rescue, bomb detection, and scouting operations." The footage showed dogs finding people buried in collapsed buildings. Dogs alerting soldiers to hidden explosives. Dogs guarding wounded personnel until help arrived. Dogs tracking enemy combatants through impossible terrain. Some of the laughter died down. A few delegates leaned forward to watch more carefully. "Your war beasts are impressive," Hana continued. "They're strong, fast, and deadly. But they're tools. Our dogs are partners. The difference is in something we call loyalty. It cannot be programmed. It cannot be bought. It can only be earned through trust and mutual respect." She brought up more data, comparative studies on bonding hormones, cooperative behavior, and problem-solving abilities. Dogs scored higher than any other species war beast in adaptive intelligence and handler integration. "A dog doesn't just follow orders," Hana explained. "It understands context. It reads human emotions and responds appropriately. When a handler is injured, most war beasts continue their mission or simply stop functioning. A dog will protect its wounded partner and call for help." Taiho added his own presentation, showing the practical applications. "Your massive war beasts require specialized containment, constant supervision, and extensive resources to maintain. Dogs sleep in our homes. They eat the same food we do. The relationship between handler and dog creates a bond that makes both of them more effective." But the crowd remained skeptical. The Velshiri ambassador spoke up. "These are interesting points, but war is not won through companionship. It is won through superior force. Your dogs are brave, certainly. But bravery means nothing when a Ravager can simply crush them. Then test us. Juno said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. You're planning to run trials anyway, to determine how best to deploy these war beasts. Let our dogs participate. Judge them by their results, not their size. Vexith considered this. The massive commander walked slowly around the group of handlers and dogs. Cooper stood up and wagged his tail as Vexith passed, apparently thinking the giant reptile wanted to play. Several delegates gasped at the dog's fearlessness. You have courage, I will grant you that, Vexith said. To bring such small creatures and call them war beasts takes either great faith or great foolishness. He paused, then nodded. Very well. The trials will test 3 areas: combat efficiency, terrain adaptability, and handler integration. All species will participate under identical conditions. We will judge by results alone. Junho bowed. Thank you, Commander. That's all we ask. As the ceremony ended and delegates filed out, Junho heard the whispers and comments. Most were dismissive. Some were curious. A few were openly hostile, claiming humanity was wasting everyone's time. Back in the cargo bay, the handlers gathered around Junho and his command team. Yuna looked worried. Did you hear them laughing? They think we're a joke. Let them laugh, Himu said firmly. Max sat beside him, completely calm despite the stress his handler felt. Max and I have proven ourselves 100 times before. We'll do it again. Handler Jinwoo nodded, his German shepherd Luna resting her head on his knee. Luna once tracked a target for 15 kilometers through a blizzard. These aliens don't know what dogs can do. Sumin scratched Bori's ears. The little corgi looked up at her with absolute trust. Bori might be small, but he's got the heart of a lion. We'll show them. Junho looked at the 12 dogs and their handlers. They were right. Size didn't matter. Appearance didn't matter. What mattered was the bond, the trust, the partnership that had been built over thousands of years of working together. Tomorrow the trials begin, Junho said. We're going to show the galaxy what humanity learned a long time ago. The best warriors aren't always the ones who look the most dangerous. Sometimes, they're the ones who fight for love instead of programming. That night, Junho sent a message back to Admiral Daeyun on Earth. Presentation complete. We were mocked, but we're in the trials. We'll make you proud. The Admiral's response came quickly. You already have. Now go show them what dogs can do. The trial planet was a nightmare made real. Coalition engineers had built a simulation that matched every horror the Ravagers brought to their conquered worlds. Toxic swamps bubbled with acidic water. Collapsed buildings created mazes of twisted metal and broken concrete. Underground tunnels stretched for kilometers in complete darkness. JUNHO stood in the observation center high above the planet's surface, watching screens that showed different trial zones. Beside him, Supreme Commander Vexith studied the data with intense focus. Other species ambassadors crowded around, eager to see how their war beasts performed. The first trial began at dawn. Combat efficiency against Ravager drones. The Corthians deployed 3 Renclaws into a ruined city zone. Dozens of simulated Ravager drones swarmed toward them, moving fast and attacking from multiple directions. The Renclaws roared and charged forward, their massive claws tearing through drone after drone. It was brutal and effective. Within 15 minutes, they had eliminated all targets. The cost was high. 2 Corthian handlers were injured when debris from destroyed drones hit them. The Renclaws had focused entirely on killing and paid no attention to their handlers' safety. Ambassador Grenth seemed unconcerned. 37 drones eliminated. An excellent result. The Velshiri's Deep Terror came next, deployed in a flooded zone. The massive creature moved through the water like a shark, crushing drones with its powerful jaws. It was impressive to watch, but it could only operate in water. On land, it was helpless. Each species took their turn. The Thraxian crystal scorpions phased through obstacles, but struggled to coordinate with their handlers. The Nemarian swamp beasts were powerful but slow. All of them scored high kill counts, but all of them also left their handlers exposed to danger. Then it was humanity's turn. Sergeant Hyunwoo and Max deployed into the ruined city zone with a team of 4 human soldiers. Unlike the other species, they didn't charge in. Max's nose immediately went to work, sniffing the air and ground. His ears swiveled, catching sounds the humans couldn't hear. Hyunwoo watched his partner carefully. They had done this dance 1,000 times before. When Max sat down suddenly and looked at a specific building, Hyunwoo knew what it meant. Targets in that structure, Hyunwoo said quietly to his team. At least 6, maybe more. Max smells them. The team moved into position. When the Ravager drones emerged, they walked into a perfect ambush. The humans knew exactly where the enemy was before the drones even appeared. Max had given them the advantage. More drones came from different directions. Max alerted to each group seconds before they arrived, giving the team time to reposition. His smaller size let him move through spaces the drones couldn't follow, leading them into kill zones where the humans could eliminate them safely. The combat was over in 12 minutes. 23 drones destroyed. 0 human casualties. In the observation center, several ambassadors looked confused. The Korthians spoke first. They killed fewer drones than our Renclaws, but they completed the objective faster with no injuries, Minji pointed out. That's a perfect score on the mission parameters. It's cheating, Grant grumbled. Using advanced detection isn't the same as fighting. Vexith's eyes narrowed. The objective was to eliminate Ravager drones in a combat scenario. The humans accomplished this with maximum efficiency and minimum risk. I see no issue. 2 more human dog teams deployed. Hamler Jinwoo and his German shepherd Luna worked in a different zone with similar results. Medical officer Yuna and Cooper, despite Cooper being a therapy dog with no combat training, used his incredible sense of smell to map enemy positions and guide their team to safety when surrounded. The second trial tested terrain adaptability. War beasts had to navigate through unstable underground tunnels, retrieve intelligence packages hidden in the darkness, and return safely. The massive war beasts struggled immediately. The Renclaws were too heavy. Their weight caused tunnel sections to collapse. 2 of them became trapped and had to be excavated by coalition rescue teams. The Volshiri's water-dependent creatures couldn't enter the dry tunnels at all. They were disqualified from this trial. The Thraxian crystal scorpions could phase through collapsed sections, but their energy-based bodies couldn't interact with physical objects. They could reach the intelligence packages but couldn't carry them back. Frustration grew among the alien delegates. Their powerful war beasts were failing at what should have been a simple task. Then Cooper and Yuna entered the tunnels. The golden retriever moved confidently through the darkness. His nose led him around unstable sections. His smaller size meant he could navigate passages the massive war beasts couldn't fit through. Within 20 minutes, Cooper had located all 5 intelligence packages and returned them to Yuna. Impossible, the Volshiri ambassador said. How did it navigate so precisely in complete darkness? Hannah smiled. Dogs don't rely on sight the way most species do. Cooper's nose is processing millions of scent molecules. He can smell the age of the air, detect structural weaknesses, and track specific chemical markers we placed on the packages. In darkness, he's actually more capable than in light. But the most impressive moment came when disaster struck during the trial. A chitter observer, there to monitor the tests, became trapped when a section of tunnel collapsed. The insectoid alien was pinned under debris, injured but alive. The chitter's own species had no war beast small enough to reach him. The other war beasts couldn't navigate the unstable tunnels without causing more collapses. Handler, Jinwoo and Luna volunteered immediately. The German Shepherd entered the dangerous tunnel system, following the chitter's scent trail. She found alternative routes that a human couldn't have discovered, passages barely wide enough for her body. Luna reached the trapped chitter, and Jinwoo followed close behind. Together, they carefully moved debris and guided the injured alien to safety. The observation center fell silent as the rescue played out on screens. When Jinwoo and Luna emerged with the chitter, even Ambassador Grenth had nothing to say. Vexith stood up. The dog risked its life for a being it had never met before. That is not programming. That is character. The third trial proved the most revealing. Handler integration under stress. Each team would face scenarios where handlers became injured. The war beasts had to either continue their mission or assist their wounded partners. Coalition observers wanted to see how the creatures responded when their handlers couldn't give commands. The results were disturbing for most species. The Renclaws simply stopped functioning when their handlers fell. The creatures had been trained to obey commands, but without those commands, they had no initiative. Some of the war beasts actually wandered away from their wounded handlers, apparently not understanding that their partners needed help. The mammalian swamp beasts were worst. When their handlers were injured in the simulation, the massive creatures ignored them completely and continued attacking targets. One handler was nearly crushed when his own war beast stepped on him while pursuing a drone. Then Max and Hyunwoo entered the trial zone. The scenario was brutal. Simulated enemy fire caught Hyunwoo in the leg. He went down hard, genuinely in pain from the impact marker, even though it wasn't a real wound. He didn't give Max any commands. He wanted to see what his partner would do. Max's reaction was immediate. The dog abandoned the mission objective completely. He positioned himself between Hyunwoo and the simulated incoming fire, his body acting as a shield. Then Max began barking in a specific pattern, the alert signal they had trained for emergencies. While protecting Hyunwoo, Max also watched the surrounding area, his ears moving constantly to track threats. When rescue teams arrived, Max only moved aside after checking that they were friendlies and that Hyunwoo acknowledged them as safe. The entire sequence took 4 minutes. Max never left his handler's side, never hesitated, never considered his own safety. Yuna and Cooper showed similar results. When Yuna went down, Cooper immediately curled around her, his larger body providing warmth and protection. He licked her face gently, a gesture meant to comfort and assess her condition. Then he barked steadily, not in panic but in a clear, carrying tone designed to bring help. Little Bori, the corgi, might have been the most impressive. When his handler Sumin was injured, the small dog became fierce. He barked aggressively at approaching drones, making himself as intimidating as possible despite his tiny size. He positioned himself at Sumin's head, protecting the most vulnerable part of her body. He refused to move even when larger threats approached Dot in the observation center. The ambassadors watched in silence. No commentary, no jokes, just raw data that couldn't be argued with. Handler integration scores appeared on screens. Human-dog teams scored 94%. The next closest species scored 43%. Most were below 30%. Tejo pulled up additional statistics. Mission completion rates for human-dog teams, 94% across all trials. Average completion rate for other species, 67%. Handler casualties for human teams, 0. Handler casualties for other species, 31%. These numbers cannot be accurate, the Korthian ambassador protested. They're confirmed by independent coalition monitors, Vexith replied. His voice was thoughtful now, not dismissive. The humans have demonstrated something we did not expect. The analysis chamber buzzed with heated debate. Coalition military analysts had spent 6 hours reviewing the trial data, and the room was divided into two clear camps. On one side stood the traditionalists, led by Ambassador Grenth. They pointed to raw combat numbers, kill counts, destruction capacity, intimidation factor. The massive war beasts had dominated these categories. A single Renclaw could eliminate more drones per minute than any dog ever could. On the other side, a growing group of pragmatists studied different numbers: mission completion rates, handler survival, adaptive problem solving, cost efficiency, resource requirements. In these categories, the dogs had crushed the competition. Junho sat with his command team in a corner of the chamber, waiting for the coalition leadership to make their decision. Minji nervously tapped her datapad. Taiho kept running calculations, as if checking the numbers one more time would change the outcome. Hannah simply watched the arguing aliens with scientific curiosity. "This is taking too long," Minji whispered. "They're questioning everything they thought they knew about warfare," Junho replied quietly. "That takes time." Ambassador Grenth's voice boomed across the chamber. "The trials were interesting, I grant you. The human dogs showed clever tricks and admirable loyalty. But we are preparing to fight the Ravagers, not run rescue missions or navigate tunnels. We need pure destructive power." A smaller alien, one of the floating gas creatures named Whisper, responded in a voice that required translation. "Destructive power is useless if it cannot be directed properly. The Renclaws killed many drones, but also damaged significant infrastructure and injured their own handlers. The dogs killed fewer drones, but completed missions with perfect efficiency and 0 casualties." "You speak of efficiency as if war is an accounting exercise," Grenth shot back. "War is about dominance, fear, overwhelming force. And yet, humanity has won wars against species physically superior to them," Whisper countered. "How do you think they accomplished that?" The Velshiri ambassador, who had been quiet for most of the debate, finally spoke. "I have reviewed the footage of the tunnel rescue. The dog Luna entered a structurally unstable area to save a being it had never met. It calculated risks that our war beasts cannot even comprehend. That is not programming. That is intelligence. Emotional intelligence, perhaps," Grenth said dismissively. "But emotion is weakness in combat." Vexith, who had been listening silently from his raised platform, finally stood. The room fell silent. Enough debate. The numbers speak clearly. Human dog teams achieved 94% mission completion across all scenarios. The next highest was the Thraxian crystal scorpions at 71%. Most species scored below 65%. He activated a holographic display showing statistical breakdowns. Handler casualties: human 0, everyone else averaging between 20 and 40%. Adaptive problem solving: humans scored 83%. Next closest was 31%. Resource efficiency: dogs require minimal maintenance and can be deployed anywhere humans can go. Your war beasts require specialized containment, extensive support systems, and in some cases, can only operate in specific environments. Commander, are you suggesting dogs are superior to our Renclaws? Grenth's tone carried clear offense. I am suggesting that we have been asking the wrong question, Vexith replied. We asked, what is the most fearsome predator? We should have asked, what is the most effective combat partner? These are not the same thing. An alarm suddenly cut through the debate. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. Vexith moved to a communication panel and his expression hardened. Ravager scouts have detected Apex Prime. A strike force is inbound. Estimated time to arrival, 47 minutes. Force composition, 12 breach pods with approximately 30 Ravagers per pod. They will attempt simultaneous hull breaches across multiple sections of the station. The room erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions and demands. Some rushed toward exits, heading for their ships. Vex's voice cut through the noise like a blade. This is not a retreat situation. The Ravager force is too small to threaten the station's primary systems, but large enough to test our defenses. It is also the perfect opportunity to field test our war beasts in real combat. He turned to face Junho directly. Captain, this is your chance to prove your dogs in actual battle. I am authorizing human dog teams to lead the station's defensive operations. All other war beast teams will provide support. If your dogs succeed, we will reconsider our entire approach to the Ravager conflict. If they fail, they won't fail, Junho said, standing up. His heart pounded, but his voice stayed steady. Then you have 45 minutes to prepare, Vexith said. May your faith in these creatures be justified. Junho and his team sprinted through the station corridors toward the cargo bay. Around them, Coalition security forces scrambled to defensive positions. Alarms echoed off metal walls. In the distance, Junho could hear the sounds of other species, preparing their war beasts for deployment. They burst into the cargo bay where the handlers waited with their dogs. Unlike the chaos outside, this room was calm. The handlers had already heard the alert and were gearing up. Dogs sat patiently while their partners checked equipment. Sergeant Hyunwoo, report, Junho commanded. All teams ready, sir. We heard the alert. Max and I are prepared for deployment. Junho looked at the 12 dogs and their handlers. In a few minutes, they would face real Ravagers. Not simulations. Not drones programmed to stop if things went wrong. Actual enemies who wanted to kill them. Listen up, Junho said. The Ravagers are hitting the station in 12 locations simultaneously. Coalition Command wants to see what dogs can do in real combat. This is our chance to prove everything we've been saying. But more importantly, this is our chance to save lives. He pulled up a station map on a holographic display. Hyunwoo and Max, you take Section 7, the maintenance corridors. Jinwoo and Luna, Section 4, near the command center. Yuna and Cooper, environmental systems. He continued assigning positions, placing each dog handler team where their specific skills would be most useful. Max's combat experience for high-threat areas. Cooper's detection abilities for critical systems. Luna's tracking skills for complex corridor networks. Little Bori and Sumin were assigned to cargo bay defense, where the Corgi's smaller size and herding instincts could control choke points. Remember your training, Junho continued. The dogs will detect threats before sensors do. Trust them. When Max sits down and stares at a wall, there's an enemy behind that wall. When Cooper's ears go flat, there's danger ahead. When Luna's tail goes stiff, she's locked onto a target. These signals have kept you alive for years. They'll keep you alive today. Minji added tactical information. Ravagers use pheromone communication. They'll try to coordinate attacks through chemical signals. But dogs can smell those pheromones. They'll know where the Ravagers are and what they're planning before we do. The Coalition forces will support you, Taiho said. But Command has made it clear you're leading these operations. The regular security teams will follow your directions. Medical Officer Yuna looked at Cooper, her gentle therapy dog who had never been in real combat. The golden retriever gazed back at her with calm, trusting eyes. She took a deep breath. We're ready. One by one, the other handlers confirmed their readiness. These were professionals who had worked with their dogs in dangerous situations before. War zones. Disaster areas. Hostile environments. They knew their partner's capabilities better than anyone, but this was different. This was alien combat in space. This was facing an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. Junho knelt down in front of Max. The Belgian Malinois looked at him alertly, tail wagging slightly. "You're a good boy," Junho said softly. "You all are." An announcement echoed through the station. Ravager strike force detected. Estimated time to breach, 12 minutes. All personnel to defensive positions. The handlers stood, checking weapons one final time. The dogs sensed the tension and became more alert, though none showed fear. They had been trained for this. More importantly, they trusted their humans completely. As they moved toward the deployment airlocks, Junho walked beside Hyunwoo and Max. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," Hyunwoo admitted. "But Max isn't, so I won't be either." They reached Section 7's defensive position. Coalition security forces were already there, looking skeptical at the human dog team that was supposedly leading the defense. "You're the Special War Beast team?" one of them asked, a crystalline being whose translator made his voice sound dubious. "That's just a dog." "That's Max," Hyunwoo corrected. "And he's about to save your life." The security team looked unconvinced, but Vexith's orders were clear. They would follow the human's lead. Max sat calmly beside Hyunwoo, his ears rotating to catch every sound. His nose twitched, processing the complex scent environment of the space station. To the Coalition guards, the dog looked like a pet. To Hyunwoo, Max looked like exactly what he was, a professional doing his job. 5 minutes to breach, the station computer announced. Throughout Apex Prime. In 12 different sections, 11 other dogs waited with their handlers. Cooper sat beside Yuna in the environmental control room. Luna stood alert next to Jinwoo near the command center. Little Bori watched the cargo bay entrance with surprising intensity. The Ravagers came through the wall like a wave of metal and fury. Their bodies were insectoid nightmares, covered in dark armor plating with multiple blade-like limbs. They moved fast, coordinated by pheromone signals that humans couldn't smell. But Max could. The Belgian Malinois stood his ground as the creatures poured into Section 7. His nose tracked each one, identifying which were soldiers and which were commanders by their scent markers. Hyunwoo watched his partner's signals and relayed targeting information to the Coalition guards. 3 on the left are command units, marked by alpha pheromones. Hyunwoo called out, "Take them first." The guards fired, and the 3 Ravagers went down. The rest of the swarm hesitated for just a second, their coordination disrupted. That second was all the defenders needed to establish firing lanes and push the Ravagers back. Max moved through the chaos with precision. He was too small to be a priority target for the Ravagers, and his speed made him hard to hit. When a Ravager tried to flank the defensive position, Max barked a specific warning. Hyunwoo turned and eliminated the threat before it could strike. Incoming from above, Hyunwoo shouted as Max's ears swiveled upward. 3 Ravagers were crawling along the ceiling. The guards adjusted their aim and brought them down. In the observation center, Vexith watched the screens with growing interest. Section 7 was holding perfectly, not because of superior firepower, but because of superior intelligence. The dog was providing awareness that no sensor system could match. Section 4 showed similar success. Luna's tracking abilities let Jinwoo predict Ravager movements before they happened. The German Shepherd could smell which corridors the enemy had used, which were currently occupied, and which were clear. She led coalition forces through the complex network of passages, avoiding ambushes and setting up perfect counterattacks. The dog is reading their tactical patterns, Jinwoo reported over the communication channel. They're using scent trails to coordinate. Luna can follow those trails backward to find their staging areas. Following Luna's nose, the Section 4 team found and destroyed a Ravager rally point before reinforcements could deploy. 12 enemies eliminated with 0 friendly casualties. Environmental control told a different story. The Ravagers had breached into the station's life support systems, attempting to release toxic spores that would corrupt the air supply. Coalition forces couldn't approach the contaminated areas without heavy protection suits, but Cooper could. The Golden Retriever had been trained his entire life to detect biological hazards. Una watched as her gentle therapy dog navigated through the contaminated zone with absolute confidence. His nose mapped the safe paths, the air currents, and most importantly, the locations of the spore distribution nodes. Cooper's found the main release valve, Una reported. Transmitting coordinates now. With Cooper's guidance, engineering teams disabled the threat before it could spread beyond one sector. Medical Officer Una felt tears in her eyes as Cooper returned to her, tail wagging. He had just saved hundreds of lives and had no idea how amazing he was. But not all sections went smoothly. Section 9 faced the heaviest assault. Handler Nari and her border collie Milo were pinned down by overwhelming numbers. The Ravagers had somehow concentrated their forces in this area, sending nearly 60 units through a single breach point. Milo did what border collies had done for thousands of years. He heard it. The dog darted between the Ravagers, barking and nipping at their legs. His movements were precise, calculated. He wasn't attacking them. He was directing them. Milo drove the disorganized swarm into tighter and tighter formations, bunching them together into predictable patterns. Nari watched in amazement as her dog turned chaos into order. All units, concentrate fire on the clustered group. Milo's giving us a clean shot. The coalition forces fired into the compressed mass of Ravagers. The damage was devastating. Milo had turned a losing battle into a turkey shoot in the cargo bay. Little Bori faced his own test. Handler Sumin and her team defended one of the station's main supply areas. Ravagers tried to push through a wide corridor that offered them multiple approach angles. Bori, standing barely 30 centimeters tall, positioned himself at the center of the corridor. When Ravagers approached from the left, he darted that way, barking and forcing them to focus on him. When they came from the right, he shifted, always keeping himself between the threats and his human. The Corgi was using instincts bred into his ancestors. For herding cattle, control the flow, direct the movement, never let them scatter. The Ravagers, confused by this tiny aggressive creature, bunched together trying to get at him. Sumin and her team eliminated them easily. "I can't believe what I'm seeing," one coalition guard said. Watching the small dog control enemies 50 times his size through sheer courage and determination. "That's Bori," Sumin said proudly. Small body, giant heart. Throughout Apex Prime, the pattern repeated. Dogs detected threats before sensors did. They tracked enemy movements through scent trails. They identified command units for priority targeting. They protected wounded soldiers and guided them to safety. They adapted to situations their handlers hadn't trained them for because they understood context. Not just commands. In 47 minutes, the Ravager strike force was eliminated. Coalition forces reported casualties. 17 wounded, none critical. Ravager casualties, 368, confirmed eliminated. But the numbers didn't tell the full story. Vexith pulled up the detailed analysis. In sections led by human dog teams, the mission completion rate was 100%. In sections defended by traditional forces alone, it was 73%. Handler casualties in dog-led sections, 0. In traditional sections, 14. The Supreme Commander stood silently, processing what he had witnessed. Around him, the ambassadors were equally quiet. Even Ambassador Grant had nothing to say. Finally, the Valkyrie ambassador spoke. The dogs performed exactly as the humans promised. They fought not with superior strength, but with superior intelligence and adaptation. They did more than that. Whisper added through his translator. In Section 7, I saw the dog physically shield his handler from debris. In Section 4, the dog alerted to a wounded Coalition soldier trapped under wreckage and led rescue teams to him. These actions went beyond their assigned mission. They chose to protect others. Vexith turned to face Junho, who had just entered the observation center with his command team. Captain, your dogs have proven themselves in real combat. The data is overwhelming. They outperformed expectations in every measurable category. With respect, Commander, they performed exactly as we expected, Junho replied. We've known what dogs could do for 40,000 years. The galaxy just hadn't learned it yet. Minji stepped forward with her datapad. We'd like to submit a formal proposal for restructuring Coalition defensive strategies. Not to replace your war beasts entirely, but to integrate partnership-based tactics alongside conventional forces. Taiho added, the key lesson isn't that dogs are better than Renclaws or Deep Terrors. It's that the relationship between handler and war beast matters more than raw power. If other species can develop similar bonds with their creatures, they could see similar improvements in effectiveness. Hannah pulled up comparative studies. We analyzed the performance differences. We analyzed your war beasts have superior strength, speed, and durability. But they lack 3 critical factors: adaptive intelligence, emotional investment, and independent decision-making. Those factors create force multiplication that raw power cannot match. Ambassador Grenth finally spoke, his voice lacking its previous certainty. You are suggesting we fundamentally change how we view our war beasts, to treat them as partners rather than weapons. We're suggesting you consider it, Junho said. Your Renclaws are impressive creatures. But what if you spent as much time building relationships with them as you do training them to kill? What if the Velshiri's Deep Terrors fought to protect their handlers instead of just following orders? The potential is there. Vexith nodded slowly. The Coalition has operated under certain assumptions for centuries. We believed that the greatest warriors were the strongest, fastest, most deadly. Humanity has demonstrated that the greatest warriors are those who fight from connection rather than programming. He activated a holographic display showing footage from the battle. Max positioning himself between Hyunwoo and incoming fire. Cooper navigating contaminated zones to save lives. Luna tracking Ravager movements through impossible terrain. Mori standing fearless against enemies that should have terrified him. These dogs succeeded not because they were superior specimens, Vexith continued. They succeeded because they loved their handlers. And that love made them willing to do impossible things. The observation center fell silent. For many of the assembled aliens, this was a completely foreign concept. Their war beasts were tools, created or trained for specific purposes. The idea that emotional attachment could enhance combat effectiveness rather than diminish it challenged everything they understood. The Korthian ambassador approached Junho. I mocked your dogs. I called them pets and toys. I was wrong. The massive alien's voice carried genuine respect. I would like to learn more about how humanity develops these partnerships. Perhaps there are lessons the Korthians can apply.